Man and machine taking on an unrelenting course through the Great Smoky Mountains. One by one, the field is eliminated, succumbing to the unforgiving terrain, stifling heat, and humidity. This is the Kenda AMA Tennessee Knockout, and you are watching the Red Bull Signature Series.
You got a little, you can use much more. Passion. Passion. Blow my mind. Blow my mind. Blow my mind. Blow my mind.
Hey everybody, I'm Salema Masekela, your host of the Red Bull Signature Series, and welcome to the Trials Training Center in Sequatchie, Tennessee, near Chattanooga for the Kenda Tennessee Knockout, aka TKO. Now, what has been predominantly popular across the continents of Europe, South America, and Africa, hard enduro's fandom is gaining major traction in these United States. Prior to the entire series being put on hold, the West Enduro World Championship Series sanctioned and included TKO in its 2020 schedule. The event continues today and is slated to be a part of West in 2021. Now, what is the allure of this most brutal of motorsports? A competitor not only needs to possess the skills to navigate a hard enduro course, which includes trials, motocross, desert racing, and enduro, but they must also have the will to push themselves and their machines beyond their limits. The man to beat, Cody Webb. This guy has become somewhat of a local celebrity. This being the 10th edition of this competition, Webb has dominated here, winning a record 6 times in a row. But he was unable to defend his title last year due to a bum knee. He's looking to return to the top of the podium. But chasing him is a multitude of talented, up-and-coming riders, including Benjamin Herrera from Chile, USA's Max Gersten, Keith Curtis, Noah Keppel, and a man unafraid to take on any motorcycle discipline, the one and only Ryan Sipes. However, all eyes are on Canada's Tristan Hart, who finished 5th here last year and recently beat Webb at the Battle of the Goats in North Carolina. That win, combined with riding 2019 TKO champion Manny Lettenbeekler's factory KTM ride, make him a dangerous threat to the multi-time champion. 4 grueling events will whittle down the field to determine the 2020 TKO champ, and for the call, we turn it over to Jack Nichols and the legend, Grant Langston.
Thanks, Salema. Here's a look at how the format is going to work. Knockout number 1 has happened already. 50 riders, the top 25 advancing through to knockout number 2. Then we will have 25 riders starting in 5 rows of 5, and the top 3 riders from each row will advance through to the final, with 15 riders starting all together in 3 rows of 5. This was knockout number 1, Grant, and a huge amount of riders trying to compete. That was Tristan Hart. He was looking very, very strong out front. But for a lot of these pretty experienced riders, it's a really, really tough course.
Well, just qualifying is obviously one of the toughest things you can do out there. These guys, the best of the best, but on a course like this, it'll make any rider look just average at times. Tristan Hart obviously has to be one of the favorites coming into this event. He's been riding very strong, and on that factory KTM, they have not been beaten in this event. So will that continue? As you see, Cody Webb, one of our top riders as well, also having his troubles through the rock section.
Yeah, really difficult times for all of them, no matter your experience. As we see a little backflip there, that would get good scores from the judges, but maybe not in a competition like this. And like you say, we saw Cody Webb struggling, and he's one of the guys that's in contention to win this event. You could choose either to go the harder, shorter route or the easier, longer route at a new hill climb, and Tristan Hart was first on the scene. He decided to go straight up it. No one basically had been up this hill climb yet, and Tristan pulled it off.
A very gutsy move from him, and obviously enabled him to get that advantage, get out front early. And on some of these tight and twisty courses, being out front is part of the battle. Clear track, you don't get held up. Cody Webb taking the other option, and you see a few riders, and this is still early in the day, struggling with this heat and humidity.
Yeah, the heat is going to be something to keep an eye out on throughout the entirety of the event today. There you see a couple of other riders thinking they'll have a go at the hill climb. This is what happens if you don't manage to pull it off. You have to come around and have another go, or take the shorter route. And even just the physicality of picking these bikes up, Grant, is not easy.
Oh, they weigh over 200 pounds. These are heavy machines. And I kid you not, as the day goes on, they feel like they get heavier and heavier. You see on some of these hills, the best option is just to turn around, go back down, start over again. But from a little bit of rain they had early in the week, some of those sections in the trees had moss on the rocks, makes it very slick. So just what seems to be an average rock or boulder, way more difficult these days.
You can see riders having drinks, having rests, and they're going to need a lot of them over the course of the day if they do manage to get through to knockout number 2, where they will bring in more difficult elements of the course as well. So even if you manage to get through the first round of the knockout, the next course you're going to face is going to be even tougher. So we are ready on the line for the start of Group 1 in the second knockout round. Tristan Hart is there, as is Keith Curtis, Will Riordan, Dustin McCarthy, and Nick Dudakovic. They are going to get going in the second round, all 5 of them heading down towards the first obstacles. Let's go down to the course and join Tina Dixon.
Thanks, Jack. Now, as we head into the second race of the day, riders will actually start on that exact same track, but we'll come across some big surprises along the way. You see, the organizers want to make things more difficult, so they've redirected where the riders will go, and that will put them on some challenging, more difficult terrain, just like the one I'm standing on. This, ironically, is called a walk in the park, but it is anything but, as you can see. Big boulder field, no definitive line. In fact, it's covered in moss, so it's going to be incredibly slick for the guys. Challenging, yes. A walk in the park, not at all.
Well, here come the race leaders, and it is Tristan Hart, the Canadian, who has got out in front then. And this is at Burke's Corner, and Tristan Hart, the leader of Group 1, quite comfortably at the moment, but these are some really, really tricky rocks and terrain that these riders have got to negotiate out there as Tristan Hart makes his way clear, and he's followed by the 711 bike of Keith Curtis. Now, he's a hugely successful snowmobile racer, but he has been riding motorbikes since he was 4, so good to see him out here. Fascinated to see what he can do today, Grant.
Well, one of the only things you won't find out here is snow, but you'll find all the other elements as we get ready for Group 2 to take off. Cody Webb, didn't quite get a great start. That's going to hurt him a little bit. Remember, top 3 will advance, so he's going to have to make a few passes.
He's up against some tough riders in this one. Noe Keppel and Corey Graffender on the Husqvarnas, Troy DeSimone and Ryan Wells. But as they come into this long left-hander at the Circle Maze, Tristan Hart is still leading. 6-time Tennessee knockout champion. This man, Cody Webb, is on the chase. And we are still very much in the early stages of the second race here in the Great Smoky Mountains. You are watching the Red Bull Signature Series.
Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. This is the Kenda AMA Tennessee Knockout TKO. What makes up a hard enduro rider? A grueling test of how far one can push themselves, both physically and mentally, along with their machines to outperform and outlast their competitors. The terrain, conditions, and distances make hard or sometimes extreme enduro the ultimate test. Elite riders have skill sets across all disciplines. The precision of trials, the speed and endurance of motocross, the navigation of desert racing, and obstacle wrestling of enduro. Now add grueling courses in harsh weather, and even the most skilled competitors are not exempt from going down and at times having to actually push their bikes uphill.
You can definitely come to this race and do well, but you have to buddy up with someone that's done it a couple times and know where all the tough zones are. Otherwise, you're going to see it blind, and you can struggle and take a bad line and end up in a hole.
We walk some of the course, and you might have a line picked out, but when you get there might be riders there, it might be the rocks are changed or whatever. It's all split-second decisions. If you don't have that ability to change your mind last second and pick somewhere else and get around that rider and get over that rock, then you're not going to cut it.
Some of our other events, they're just not as rocky and slick as these ones, you know? Here, I mean, the creeks are so slippery, and the rocks, even if it's dry, it's like they sweat. The humidity here is crazy.
Traction is everything. Here in Tennessee, it's slippery everywhere, especially when it's raining, like crazy slippery. Finding for that last little bit of traction is the difference of making it up something or not making it up something.
I'm actually pretty new to hard enduro. If I ride it like it's a motocross track, there's no traction. But if I do the right things with the bike, get the RPMs lower, weight the bike in certain ways, now there's traction. But it takes a lot of practice to figure that out. My training's been pushing my bike up a hill. Literally, I go ride, and then I find a hill and I push my bike up it 3 or 4 times.
I have to push a lot because I'm not a trial rider, so sometimes I don't have the technique to clean the uphills or clean the sections.
I didn't grow up being a trials rider. That's definitely one of the most important things with this sport. So I knew my weakness was my technical ability. So this winter I rode my trials bike maybe like 50 days out of a 60 or 70 day period. Like I lived on it every day, no days off. I want to win. That's what I want. And I took the challenge upon myself to get good at trials, and it paid off.
Well, things certainly going well for Tristan Hart at the moment. He is leading the first group. The third group is now at the start line, ready to begin. Remember, the top 3 from each group will advance through to the final. And we've got some big hitters in this one. Benjamin Herrera, the Chilean, on the Beta bike, as well as Ronnie Como, Ryan Sipes on a KTM, Quinn Wenzel and Adam Hartnagel are out there as well. And we are on board with Herrera as he comes into the first corner, just shuffled down to 4th position at the moment. But meanwhile, Tristan Hart is entering 4 logs, and Tina Dixon is down there.
Guys, right now I have eyes on Tristan Hart. He is now entering that section known as 4 logs. Now, I caught up with him earlier, said his weakness was his trials riding. So out of 60 days, spent 50 on his trials bike, honing in his skills. And remember, he is coming into this event after beating Cody Webb just a few weeks ago. And let's see how he handles this section.
Well, here he is coming through 4 logs now. Tristan Hart, the Canadian, and him and Cody Webb are going to have a really entertaining battle today, I think. They're not in the same group here, and he makes it look very straightforward, doesn't he, Grant?
Yeah, all that training obviously paying off. Tristan looks very cool, calm, collected out front. In fact, stretching his lead out. And remember, these guys are still going to want to save a little bit of their energy as we see Keith Curtis entering the log section.
So he slides down the entry, and Tina is still there.
And coming off that first line, it's the snowmobile racer, Keith Curtis, now entering this section. He's a crossover athlete, but don't let that fool you because he's been on a dirt bike since the age of 4. He's raced in Romaniacs. He has finished Erzberg, says he feels comfortable here, guys. See how he does.
So the 32-year-old with 30 World Championship titles under his belt in snowmobile racing makes fairly light work of 4 logs as he comes up and out. And the next rider to drop in there is Will Reardon on bike 4D, and he's taking his time before making it out of this section as well. So how tough is it to find a line in sections like this, Grant, or is it fairly straightforward where there's only one line?
I think in these sections at the moment, you can tell there definitely is more than one line. And the riders will tell you this is probably not the most technical part of the track. And, well, if it's wetter, there definitely is, but at the moment, not as much.
Dustin McCarthy dropping in now. Just behind him is Nick Dudovic, and getting a little bit of a help of exactly where to go and where to follow. Is it easy to follow in a situation like this?
I think it definitely depends on who you're following. If it's someone that might have a slightly better skill set in a section like this, whoops, as we see a little mistake, you got to go back, set up all over again. But yeah, it can be easier to follow sometimes because you see the line, but should the rider in front of you get stuck, it can definitely hold you up quite a bit.
This is really tough, isn't it, for Nick Dudovic trying to get over this log. He's going to have another run at it.
You can see how much time he's lost to the rider ahead of him already. But in these tough enduros, you can lose time quickly, but there's no need to panic because you can obviously make it up by picking very smart lines.
Group 4 are on their way now. Cooper Abbott in the KTM. You got Max Gersten in there as well on the Beta, who's going to be one to watch out for later on. I would have thought Jordan Ashburn and Jarrett Moan all in this group of 4, making their way through Burke's corner, wrestling with the bikes as hard as they can to try and make some progress and advance through to the second knockout. And we're now riding with Cody Webb, the leader of Group 2. It's very, very steep descent picks his line and heads towards Tina Dixon.
And now leading that second group, it is American Cody Webb. Remember, the 6-time champion here, but he missed last year due to the injury. I talked to him earlier. He said he feels the pressure to get back up on the podium. But we are still very early in the racing, and Cody said his strategy, conserve energy till the final.
Well, that's a good point, actually, isn't it, Grant? Because this is a long day for these riders.
Oh, absolutely. And no matter how fit and strong you are, when you get on race day and you're in unfamiliar territory, you just seem to burn more calories, work harder than usual. Cody Webb, obviously been around the block a few times before, has dominated this event. But one thing we've got to remember, those were all done on KTM, now on the Sherco. Can he get it done this time round?
Yep, new bike for him this year. Meanwhile, Tristan Hart is entering Walk in the Park, a brand new section specifically added for this 10th anniversary race. Awaits our lead group. Hardly a walk in the park, zero traction over mossy covered slick rocks. You're watching the Red Bull Signature Series.
Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. This is the Kenda AMA Tennessee Knockout TKO from the Great Smoky Mountains. The Smokies get their name from the natural fog that lingers over the range and gives the appearance of smoke plumes from a distance. This fog is caused by the dense forest vegetation exhaling volatile organic compounds exacerbated by the copious amounts of annual rainfall in this region. Perfect recipe if you are trying to devise a treacherous course for hard enduro. If you didn't know any better, you would think every hard enduro race's organizer's main goal is to devise the most diabolical course and find ways to torture the competitors relentlessly. The draining heat and humidity and constant dampness make this terrain exceedingly slick and will deplete the fittest of athletes in no time. It is no wonder the West Series sees this competition worthy of its World Championship tour.
The Trials Training Center here in Sequatchie, Tennessee is always so treacherous. The rocks are super slippery. I'm convinced there's no place more slippery than this place here.
There's just absolutely no traction. You could stop on flat ground and spin your tire and not move. It's like an insane, crazy dirt mixture here that just, it's hard to find traction.
Depends on how big the root is and how big the rock is. There's some big flat rocks out here that are just infinitely slippery. There's been numerous times out here where I've been going up a hill and then all of a sudden my tire is turning forwards and I'm going backwards down the hill and there's just nothing you can do about it. So you're just going from one beat down to the next, to the next, to the next, and it's just that progressive beat down.
The heat on the East Coast is a whole nother animal. You can say it's hot in Arizona, it's hot in Texas. It ain't hot like it is here.
It's okay to sweat. Like, you're gonna sweat here no matter what. So you've just got to accept it.
When it gets really humid in these hills and hollers out here, it's almost like you can't breathe. And you get so hot, you sweat so much that it's not cooling you off anymore. I don't think I've ever been hotter than when you're pushing your bike up a hill. When you're stuck for 5 minutes and don't feel like you're gonna be able to get out, that's tough. That's when the heat really gets to you.
The heat very much a defining factor of the Tennessee Knockout. This is Cody Webb, the American who is leading Group 2 at the moment, as he's getting a little bit beached on this log and manages to haul the bike over and then carry on his way. It's just so physical, this hard enduro, Grant.
Well, these are the things you want to try and avoid because it just really saps the energy out of you. You're in this dense forest where you've got just humid air, it's sticky, it's heavy, there's no breeze on you, and you're just sweating profusely. But Cody Webb got those long legs, very talented rider, so for him to be struggling just shows you how big and how difficult those logs are.
You can hear huge cheers for Cody Webb as he tries to get through this feature at a walk in the park. Very popular around these parts, Cody Webb. And here is Ryan Sipes, who's in a bit of trouble and is actually getting passed by the number 5 bike there of Quinn Wenzel. So Ryan Sipes struggling a little as he tries to get on top of this hard enduro style of riding.
Well, Wenzel came in there with a whole head of steam and actually made a bit of contact with Sipes, who now is waiting for Wenzel to move so he can have an opportunity, but you can tell just how it's getting difficult. Look at the bike just wheel spinning, no traction, and as they do this, digging deeper and deeper into the ground, it creates deeper ruts. You get tree roots becoming exposed, and just makes things tougher for the riders that follow.
Sipes was saying earlier on that he practices by just pushing his bike up hills, and he's putting that practice to good use at the moment.
Well, he's going to need all that extra strength, and that's not a bad training program. It'll definitely help you, because in sections like this, you have no option, as we see Group 5 coming in.
Yep, they're at Burke's Corner then. Ryder LeBlanc, Nick Farringer, Danny Lewis, Spencer Wilton and Chuck DeLulo are in this group. And they are pulling away is Ryder LeBlanc moving into first place in Group 5 at the moment.
This is one of those sections where you definitely can make some passes. Remember, you don't have to win, but the better you qualify, the better your starting position is, and you want to be in the top 3.
Cody Webb still at a walk in the park. We go on board with him here. And just trying to pick a line through here must be so tough. You look at it and it all just looks like blank rock all the way across.
And these rocks are extremely slippery. You can see the green moss on top. And no matter what tire compound you pick, you might have some traction and then it leads to that, or you end up wheel spinning.
Yep, Ryan Sipes there still struggling to get away from 4 logs. That's the same spot that we saw him a moment ago when Quinn Wenzel came and passed him, and he is still there, still struggling to get out of this section. And he's been joined there by another rider as well, so he's losing places here, Ryan Sipes. You've got to be in the top 3 in your group if you would want to advance through to the final knockout round. So it's going to be a long, long old afternoon for Ryan Sipes. Here's back with Cody Webb.
Using those long legs to his advantage, just paddling up this treacherous hill. Not the same size crowd attendance as we used to in the past due to the 2020 situation, but still some of the event organizers out there and a few officials helping these guys, whether it's cheering them on and every now and then just pointing them in the right direction.
There's also been amateur competition and women's competition this weekend as well, so a lot of family and friends watching the action. Obviously not the huge crowds that we usually see at Tennessee Knockout, as here, race leader Tristan Hart is about to start the hill climb. He did it in the earlier first knockout round. How smooth is he going to be this time around? Look at that, breezes up it, really impressive stuff. Tina.
And guys, we are back at Walk in the Park. We talked about this earlier, just this rock garden that's so technical. But really the big thing here is how slippery the rocks are. If you take a closer look, there's all that moss on the rocks, and it just makes it really hard for those athletes to get traction. Cody Webb, he's won this 6 times, and he's been having trouble in this section.
So Cody Webb makes it through a walk in the park. No huge rush for him. He just needs to be in the top 3 of this second group, and that's something he's achieving at the moment. Well in the lead, and that will see him advance through to the final knockout round. But there's still many challenges ahead, including the hill climb that he opted out of in the first knockout round. Now he can't avoid that obstacle because it's mandatory. You're watching the Red Bull Signature Series. Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. This is the 10th annual Kenda, Tennessee Knockout, the USA's most grueling hard enduro race. We're on board with 6-time champion Cody Webb as he navigates this riverbed. He and the other riders are only partially through the second knockout round of the day, which qualifies them for the final race. Webb is now at this mandatory hill climb, which we saw one of his rivals, Tristan Hart, breeze up earlier on. Grant, let's see how he does.
Well, I wonder if it's gotten into his head. He didn't do it earlier. Now he has no choice. He's fully committed. You can hear the RPM on that machine going up the hill. Oh, little mistake there, but I think he's going to be able to continue using those long legs once again. So not quite as efficient as Tristan Hart, so that might be a big deciding factor when we get into the final rounds.
Yeah, he'll have to do that multiple times once he gets through to the final, but he's got up the hill climb this time around. Now we are with Benjamin Herrera at a walk in the park. The Chilean struggling there, bike dropping down. He's going to have to haul that one up. Turns 26 next week, does the youngster, as he looks to improve his standings around the hard enduro world. Had a podium last year in Red Bull Override in Texas and at the Inca Hard Enduro in Peru, and he has now been joined by Corey Graffender, who struggles a little bit earlier here, but you can see from this camera angle just how big these logs are that they've got to try and get over.
Well, the nice thing for Herrera was at least he got over the log before dumping the bike, so Corey Graffender got a little extra work for him to do.
So Benjamin Herrera pulls away. Group 5, meanwhile, are at 4 logs. We've got the 901 bike there on the left-hand side. That's Nick Farringer. 513 facing backwards down the hill. That is Ryder LeBlond, and then Spencer Wilton is in there somewhere as well. But even just trying to... You go back around to have another go at it, and even turning the bike around to go back around looks like it's a challenge. But Tristan Hart, meanwhile, is coming into Lampkin Falls, named after Dougie Lampkin. And he is looking very, very comfortable out in front. And is this a pressure-off situation for him, really? Has he just got to kind of try and learn the course and perfect his lines for the final knockout round later on?
Oh, he's definitely in a comfortable position out front. No pressure coming from behind. And he's just looked very comfortable. Never flustered at any moment. He's taken a quick breather every now and then to really suss the line out that he's going to take on the bigger hills. Look at him, very methodical. Everything he's doing is with purpose. And at the moment, it's working out because he's not making the big mistakes.
So doubles back on himself and then continues climbing the hill. You can see the rugged landscape for the Tennessee knockout. We're riding with Cody Webb now as he comes through a flatter, slightly more straightforward part of the terrain, but this is where it starts to get tough on some of these descents. You think of the ascents as being the tricky part, but that does not look easy either.
Well, it's very easy to get carried away. You want to make up some ground, you carry a little extra speed, but these are the sections that will bite you. Those rocks are constantly moving, and you've got to be very respectful.
Here comes Noah Keppel, the 24-year-old, on his Husqvarna, about to take on the hill climb. Second in Group 2 at the moment. You hear a bit more wheel spin compared to the other riders, but he makes it up to the top. Corey Graffender is stopping for a little bit of a break, I think, and well earned. He's running in Group 2 at the moment. Max Gersten here, the Group 4 leader, is coming to pass Corey.
Wow, just showing you how much this course is taking it out on the riders. Cannot believe that Corey Graffender is just going to take a little breather during a race, but when you're tired and you can't make the good decisions, you've got to catch your breath and regroup.
Max Gersten then going past on the beta from Scottsdale, Arizona. We're on board with him now. He missed TKO last year after picking up a hand injury, so he's hoping to get a good result this time around. And he's made up a place, although it was against a rider in a different group, so it doesn't really count for anything. He should still be advancing through. Here's Benjamin Herrera now, the Group 3 leader. He is at the hill climb, wanting a bit of a cheer, asking for a bit of advice from the crowd there. Can that really help?
Yeah, he probably actually asked what the riders ahead of him, which lines they took. You saw him almost signaling, should I go more to the right? And wow, he gets up there very nicely. So maybe the advice from the spectators really helping him out.
So good work from Benjamin Herrera. He gets to the top of the hill climb and is on his way. As he then drops down the other side of that crest.
Not a lot of flat ground around here. You notice the riders are either going up or down. And this would be maybe one of those sections you could say that gives them a chance to catch their breath. But you see how many big tree roots and boulders there are. If you're not careful, those can jump out and bite you and also create damage, which could lead you to not finish the event if there's too much damage to a bike.
You mentioned it earlier with the descents, but how hard do you have to push on these kind of flatter parts, or do you not have time to take a breath because this is the time you've got to be going flat out?
Well, you only want to go as fast as you can read the terrain in front of you. The minute you're going ahead of that is when problems can arise, but there's always someone out there trying to find a few tenths or a few seconds all the way around this course.
Well, here's Ryan Sipes. He is stuck at a walk in the park or taking a rest, and he's having a bit of a altercation there, isn't he? Troy DeSimone is trying to get around him. Ryan Sipes saying, well, no, you can either go around me, I'm not moving out of the way for you. And I think they're all stuck up behind Jordan Ashburn on the 48 bike. So that's why Ryan Sipes is waiting, because he's waiting for the route to be clear in front. And that's one of the things we've seen with Ryan Sipes earlier on, actually, is how close these riders get to each other. And if there's a bit of a blockage, oh, there's the blockage, the bike's on its side, that can cost you so much time, almost through no fault of your own.
Oh, and that's the problem Sipes is dealing with. Didn't get a clear run at it. You can tell getting wore out, but doesn't want to move over and lose a position. Remember, these guys are trying to qualify for the final, so every position is critical. So a battle in slow motion at the moment for qualifying spots.
And there's a look at some of the rocks as well. We mentioned it earlier on, but they're all kind of coated in that green moss that makes it so difficult to get traction, because you look at that, it looks like there's plenty of rocks, a little bit of mud. You should be able to get something on that, but just nothing.
Oh, you've heard the riders talk about it all week, about just how slick it is and deceiving. It looks like it shouldn't be a problem to get up there, but they're just wheel spinning so much. Makes it really tough to figure out which tire compounds to use, because you've got so many variations of surface.
So Jordan Ashburn has got through then. He's got over that log and got away a little bit. It looks as though Ryan Sipes is getting a bit of encouragement, and he sends it straight over. Nice job from Ryan Sipes, and the crowd show their appreciation.
Oh, and you can tell Sipes is relieved, and then unfortunately just throws the bike down. You can see by the body language, he's getting to that point where he's maybe questioning getting into hard enduros. This guy has done everything on two wheels, but at the moment, this is really taken out of him, and we know Sipes is a really fit athlete. So to see him struggle like this, you know it's got to be extremely tough.
What is it that makes you, a rider, want to swap disciplines? What is it? Is it to sort of prove themselves, or a new challenge, or a variation of things?
Well, I often say these enduro riders, they're a special breed. They're the only ones that spend their time and money to sign up for punishment like this. But there's something to be said about it. I think a lot of people could relate, whether it's running a marathon or doing a triathlon. It's the same thing. It's man and machine just testing themselves, and the strength, the willpower, and trying to not just give in mentally at times. When you cross that finish line, it is so rewarding. You feel like you've just accomplished something huge.
Well, who will overcome the heat, humidity, and treacherous terrain to advance to the final, and which riders will succumb and be knocked out? Cody Webb navigating this section, but we've still got plenty of racing ahead. You're watching the Red Bull Signature Series. Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. This is the Kenda, Tennessee knockout from the Trials Training Center in Sequatchie. The rocky terrain combined with the moss, heat, and humidity makes this the toughest hard enduro in the USA. Six-time champion and favorite Cody Webb, normally the hunted, has now become the hunter, still chasing current leader Canadian Tristan Hart. We're on board with Cody Webb as he comes down through Lampkin Falls, going through the bushes and the undergrowth coming out at him, and then you just turn around and you look up and you see that ahead of you, Grant. This is so tough.
Extremely difficult. This section was named after Dougie Lampkin, just an absolute legend in trials from the UK. And this place has lent itself for this sort of terrain and training. And Cody Webb, fortunately, that is one of his stronger points. You can see him very comfortable in this tough section.
Max Gersten is the Group 4 leader. He's got ahead of Quinn Wenzel, who's third in Group 3 at the moment as they approach the hill climb. Not too far to go before they have to take on that treacherous obstacle. Still got to get through these rocks first of all, has Quinn Wenzel. But here now is Max Gersten about to throw it up the hill. Let's see how smoothly he can do it. The leader's got through it fairly well. Gersten, the 28-year-old, gives it some revs and then fires it up.
And guys, As we just saw Max Gersten go up this hill climb. In fact, this was one of the big unknowns coming into this race. No rider had ever attacked it. It was an option earlier in the racing. Now it is mandatory, and one of the reasons is the weather. These are ideal conditions. In fact, it rained a few days ago, but since then, the dirt has dried up nicely. It's still nice and tacky, but the race director, he said, couldn't ask for anything better.
Here's Benjamin Herrera then. He is now in Lambkin Falls. He is making his way through this difficult section of course. You can see him just constantly looking around as well to try and see where to place the bike, where to place his feet, and which direction to take.
Well, you always need a good starting point when you want to, attack a tough section like that. He is leading his group, so in a comfortable position enables you to take that little extra couple seconds to really pick your line out and not be in a panic situation. Look at that, just wheel spinning over the rocks. But Herrera getting through there, maneuvering the bike, saw him even using the power to get the rear to spin and sort of do a bit of a slide out, change the angle of the bike and keep on going.
Here's Tristan Hart though, he's in the finish area. He's going to be first across the line, and that will see him advance through to the final. Very impressive ride from the Canadian, but he's still got one more race to run if he wants to win the Tennessee Knockout.
That section got the best of me. I'm gonna rest for a minute.
Ryan Sipes saying that section got the best of him and he needs a rest for a minute. And he looks like he's in a bad way at the moment, to be perfectly honest.
Getting a little something to drink there, and man, I just never thought I would see this out of Ryan Sipes. The guy is an absolute animal on the motorcycle, and you can see right now just doing anything he can to try and get himself to that finish line.
Max Gersten, the next rider to come into Lambkin Falls on bike number 15, down in Group 4. But he's actually progressed pretty well. As I say that, he gets a little bit stuck as the back end of the bike swings around on him. But he's had a pretty impressive run, I think, in this one, Gersten, despite being in that fourth group at the start. But he's very much going to advance because he's been running at the front of Group 4 for pretty much the entirety of his run.
He's put himself in great position. It'll give him a good qualifying spot, putting him in the front row come the final, and that is huge. We've seen track position can play a large factor. Clear track in front of you enables you to pick your lines and go at your own pace.
So Gersten up through Lambkin Falls. Meanwhile, the second rider from Group 1 is coming to the finish line. Keith Curtis is going to finish second, and that advances him through to the final, along with Tristan Hart. Here comes Ryder LeBlond up the hill climb, sort of. Has a little bit of a moment, 3/4 of the way up, and then it's going to be tough to get up from there. Cody Webb, first from Group 2, is going to advance to the final as well as he takes the finish line. And, well, Corey Graffender with a new air conditioning solution.
Hey, guys have sponsors, but every now and then desperate times call for desperate measures. And if you're wondering just how hot it was, this picture says it all.
Benjamin Herrera is the winner from Group 3. He's the first from the third batch of 5 to come across the line and book himself a place in the final knockout race. And Jordan Ashburn now is at Lambkin Falls. We saw him a little bit earlier on getting involved. Well, he was the man holding up Ryan Sipes, but I don't think Sipes minded too much that Jordan was in his way. And now he's coming through Lambkin Falls, looking quite smoky, that bike there. But now Max Gersten, he is going to finish first from Group 4, so he books himself a place on the front row for the final knockout race later on. Well, let's go down and catch up with Tina Dixon, who's found Cody Webb.
Cody, coming in second throughout the day's race in the earlier rounds, are you concerned at all about that?
Not too bad right now. That first one I rode a little bit tight, and then the second one I felt like I rode really good, but I just super conservative and took my time. And once I got in the lead, there really wasn't a panic. So basically was saving energy to go full gas here in the final.
When you are trying to save energy and you see that guy in front of you, how do you hold back? How do you keep it held back?
Well, luckily I got that last TKO round. I got in the lead down the first creek, and once that happened, I just rode smart. But some of the other races, when you see that guy in front of you, it's hard to relax but still push to get by him. So I got lucky that time, but in the main, we don't know yet what's going to happen. But it's 30 minutes, and it's going to be a sufferfest.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Well, these are the riders that advance through then to the final round of the Tennessee Knockout. Tristan Hart, Cody Webb, Herrera, Gersten and Farringer will be on the front row. The final 15 are set. Hart has bettered Webb twice today. Can he maintain this momentum, or is the six-time champion just waiting to make his move and unleash on the young Canadian? The final knockout when we return. You're watching the Red Bull Signature Series.
Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. I am your host, Salema Masekela. From the Trials Training Center, this is the Kenda AMA Tennessee Knockout TKO. It has been a grueling day of competition with 3 races, knocking out competitors to determine the final 15 riders who will race on the short course. Now, starting in 3 groups of 5 from a dead engine start, it will be an all-out sprint for 7 laps to the checkered flag. Tristan Hart shows no signs of slowing down, and the 6-time winner is right there within striking distance of a win. But in hard enduro, it is anyone's guess who will cross the finish line first and in one piece. The green flag is about to drop for the main event, so we're going to throw it back over to Jack Nichols and Grant Langston for the call.
Thank you, Salema. This is how they will line up then for the grand final of the Tennessee Knockout. Tristan Hart, Cody Webb, Benjamin Herrera, Max Gersten and Nick Farringer are the 5 riders on the first row as we wait for the race to get underway. 30 minutes plus 1 lap. Who's going to get the whole shot?
Now you see the dead engine starts there. They hit the start button, get it going. Now we're going to get to see Cody Webb and Tristan Hart going head-to-head. Remember, in the qualifiers, they were in separate groups.
This is the view from Max Gersten, and it looks as though Tristan Hart has got the whole shot. Gersten getting shuffled back, and it is indeed the Canadian who's out in front. Cody Webb is in second spot. Benjamin Herrera in there as well as they come over that jump for the first time. And there come the lead 2 out and away. And it is actually Noah Keppel who's got him into third place right at the start. He started on row 2, but he's managed to climb up the order very quickly. On board further back with Benjamin Herrera, who's dropped to 5th position. But the top 2 right together. Now, this isn't a long race, 30 minutes plus 1 lap, but you still need to not lose too much ground at the start.
Oh, these riders were probably exhausted coming into the final, and you can see already, look at the intensity between the front 2. Cody Webb, he's won this 6 times, but he wants to do it on the Sherco, which has not been done. KTM have dominated this event. Tristan Hart's been riding fantastic all weekend long. He's had good results in the past, but now finds himself leading early.
So here they come. Still the Canadian ahead of the American. Then there's a little bit of a gap back to Noah Keppel, who's running in third position, the 24-year-old. And look at these top 2 right together. Seeing them go absolutely head-to-head is really quite spectacular. We saw them pretty much on their own for most of the first knockout races. Webb almost into the back of Tristan Hart as they swing through that left-hander around the tree. And Hart gets a little bit of a gap, but it's so tough to keep following in these positions. You can see the crowd that have turned up from the riders' family and friends. Not the usual cheers and applause that we're used to at Tennessee Knockout, but they're all still going to be wanting Cody Webb to take victory here. No doubt about that. He's been riding at this venue for an awful long time. Now let's go down and join Tina with one of the riders that didn't make it through to the final.
Ryan Sipes going outside of his wheelhouse to do this hard enduro, and it was a tough one out there. How would you describe your exhaustion levels right now?
I mean, mainly it's just cramps. I'm cramping in spots I've never cramped before. My abs are cramping. If I bend over, I lock up. So it's just, I guess, the heat, you know, and the exertion, physical, just, I don't have quite the skill level that these guys do, so I work a lot harder to get up some of this stuff, and it got me. I was, well, right at the beginning of that race, probably 5 minutes in, I got stuck for a good 5 minutes, and that took a lot out of me, and by the end, I was done. Even if I'd have made it, I don't know if I could have raced the final, but I finished it. I finished the race too, so I'm okay with it. That was hard.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Well, I don't have abs to get cramping, but nevertheless, an extreme, supreme athlete like Ryan Sipes, experiencing things he's never felt before, and he's been riding bikes all his life.
He's going to be sore in some areas he didn't even know he had muscles. And as far as the front two go at the moment, you can see the intensity. They are pushing it. Cody Webb mentioned was saving a little bit for the main event. He's a wily veteran, knows how to pace himself like a good marathon runner. Save your best for last.
Benjamin Herrera there has now made it up into third position, but it is Tristan Hart who's leading. There's Cody Webb in second. Hart, the 23-year-old Canadian, finished 14th in his first ever go at Red Bull Hare Scramble last year. He was the top rookie of 2019, helped out by Cody Webb, actually. Tristan's brakes failed, and Cody basically brought a replacement up the mountain, and Tristan was able to carry on. But he's got the measure on Cody Webb at the moment on this Manny Lettenbichler KTM. So he's doing a good service to that KTM at the moment, with Cody Webb on the Sherco trying to chase him down.
So a battle of two intense riders on two different machines. Sherco never had a chance to win this event. KTM undefeated. You know Cody Webb really wants to put his name on that list on another machine, just proving, hey, maybe it's more the man than the machine.
Yeah, indeed. He's on this new bike for this event. They're coming around now to complete lap one, and they're very much in a class of their own, aren't they? Across the line comes Tristan Hart in the lead. Cody Webb straight after him there in second position. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Benjamin Herrera in third spot.
Oh, we're getting to see some of those lap times. You could see not a big gap between Tristan and Cody. Tristan doing a 4:44, Cody a 4:48. As Herrera comes through, he'll complete his first lap about 13 seconds behind Cody Webb, also in the 5-minute range. So just showing you the time difference between the front three.
There is Herrera swinging through that hairpin left, the first tight corner on the course before he goes back out into the forests. Well, Tristan Hart has dominated all day long, but Cody Webb said he was saving all his energy for this final race. Benjamin Herrera of Chile is also in the hunt and chasing close behind. Who will be crowned the 2020 TKO champion? You're watching the Red Bull Signature Series. Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. This is the Kenda, Tennessee Knockout, and racing continues in the final round. Canada's Tristan Hart leads in the second lap of the race, with 6-time champion Cody Webb right on his heels. Youth or experience, who will prevail? Webb has managed to close right up to the back of Tristan Hart here, hasn't he? Because Hart had a reasonable lead at the end of the first lap, but Webb has clawed it back in, Grant.
Yeah, it's going to come down now who makes the least amount of the big mistakes. They're all going to have to really navigate carefully, and also the track has been breaking down throughout the day. Rocks have been moved, logs are more exposed, and Cody at the moment looks like he's just happy to sit there in second place and put the pressure on Tristan. Now, if you're Tristan, that's not very comforting, knowing you're giving it everything you've got. Or is he? That's the real question. Cody Webb has been dealing with injuries the last couple of years, so maybe he's really having to pace himself. Or does Tristan Hart have a little extra in the tank for the end?
Yeah, it has been a really tough couple of years injury-wise for Cody Webb. He missed the last 2 hare scrambles through injury, missed Tennessee Knockout last year through injury. And here now is the very impressive Chilean Benjamin Herrera running in third position right now, and a fairly comfortable third position, you have to say. Turns 26 next week, and he did a lot of riding in his native Chile before moving over to compete in Europe, aged just 16. But there are our top 2. Still Hart ahead of Webb. If you're in the lead here, are you trying to build up as big a lead as possible, as you were referring to earlier, or are you just managing your pace, managing the gap, not going too hard?
Well, obviously, Tristan Hart doesn't want to ride over the limit, but you also don't want to feel like you're one mistake away from losing the control of this race. So I think for Cody Webb, a lot of times for riders, they prefer being the hunter rather than being hunted. But I think if Tristan Hart could just break away from Cody Webb, that might just break Cody's spirit and be what Tristan needs to get his first win.
There's Herrera again, running in that third spot fairly comfortably. He does have, you could just see in the background there, Noah Keppel, who's doing a good job on his Husqvarna. it's still a very good job from Benjamin Herrera, the Chilean, running in third spot. He's now coming under the bridge that we saw the leaders take on a couple of moments ago. But it's a fairly lonely race for him at the moment. He hasn't got enough to match the riders out in front.
No, unfortunately for him, it's been a fantastic ride. A little bit quiet there in third spot, just doesn't quite have the pace of the front two. But I think for Herrera, he's going to be very happy if he can finish on the podium.
Webb now doesn't quite have the race leader in his sights. Here comes Herrera again, on board with him, dropping down the descent, swinging around to the right. Still great to see some fans here, at least the friends and family of the riders in other competitions and these riders as well. But there, across the line to complete the next lap, is the race leader, Tristan Hart. Cody Webb across the line, quite a way behind now. Halfway through that lap, they were looking pretty close, but then Tristan Hart just stretches his legs, extends the lead, and there you can see visibly the gap between them.
Yeah, Tristan Hart once again just seems to find some time right before they head to the finish line and pulls away from Cody. A 4:52 for Tristan, so still sub 5-minute lap times. Incredible pace from these front two. Cody Webb also just under the 5-minute mark at a 4:59.
Here's Noah Keppel running in fourth position at the moment. He's racing for Husqvarna, not racing full-time, studying at University of San Diego, but he is here competing for Husqvarna. Colton Hacker, their usual rider, out through injury. There is the third place man, Benjamin Herrera, and he does a 5-minute 30 lap time. That's half a minute slower than he managed on lap 1, and half a minute slower than the leaders that he's trying to fight with. And there's Noah Keppel across the line, 4 seconds slower than Herrera. So 30 seconds in one lap just shows you the advantage that these top two have over everyone else in the field.
Well, the front two obviously not making the big mistakes and keeping their momentum going, even in these tough conditions. But behind, Herrera still holding strong. Slightly slower lap time could have been due to a big mistake, or maybe you finally starting to just see the fatigue setting in.
On board with Benjamin Herrera. Hitting some of those huge rocks, no problem at all, going over some of them, going round some of the others, as he tries to pick the best line out through the Tennessee countryside.
You can see some of the sections of the track widen up, makes it a lot easier for passing, but you see some of the sections as well, very tight, very one-lined. So you got to pick your passes, and also at times just know when you have to follow.
Now, this is the part of the course where a lap ago they were right together, weren't they? Tristan Hart out in front and Cody Webb was right behind him. But now Hart is up that hill climb well before Cody Webb gets to the bottom of it. He attacks it now, climbs to the top, and we are in the closing stages of the final race of the Kenda Tennessee Knockout. Tristan Hart has dominated all day. Cody Webb is running out of time. Can he reel in and overtake the young Canadian? You're watching the Red Bull Signature Series. Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. We're in the final stages of the 10th annual Tennessee Knockout. Leader Tristan Hart is about to complete the 6th lap with Cody Webb still right on his tail, Benjamin Herrera in 3rd and Noah Keppel in 4th. If Webb has any hopes of capturing a 7th title, he will have to make a move soon to overtake the young Canadian. Tristan Hart doing a very good job out in front there on bike number 84. Cody Webb, who we're with here, on bike number 2, on board with him, coming through the final sequence of corners to finish his 6th lap. Takes over some of those huge logs, then we'll double back and we'll see exactly what the gap is between him finishing his 6th lap and the race leader, Tristan Hart.
You can see this section out in the front starting to look more like a motocross track. You got the deep ruts forming. You can really see the lines coming in. As we head back into the wooded sections, Gersten having a great ride. He was way back in the pack on end of lap 1. He's fought his way from 13th, now finds himself in the top 8.
And then we've got Keith Curtis and Ryder LeBlond in the battle for 5th and 6th. Keith Curtis, the multiple snowmobile champion, snowmobile legend really. They're running in 5th and 6th, and here comes Cody Webb to try to put a lap on the two of them. So that shows you 5th and 6th, and they'll have already been passed by the race leader, so they're more than 5 minutes off the lead of the race, only this far into the event. It really is staggering what Cody Webb and the race leader Tristan Hart are doing at the moment. But this battle for 5th is going to be a tight one as Keith Curtis makes his way up the hill.
These guys have gone back and forth, battling arguably for their best rides ever. There's a lot of willpower at the moment. Who is going to be strong towards the finish?
Here's the race leader though, Tristan Hart, leading as he has been since he got the whole shot at the very start, as he has been through the first 2 knockout rounds. Has a little bit of a wobble there, but nothing too dramatic. He's lapping Jordan Ashburn at the moment, who's in 13th position. So that's another rider past. Cody Webb running in 2nd spot, trying to chase in and close down, but it's really looking as though Tristan Hart has got a reasonable advantage. Here you can see Cody Webb, and this is not going to help him. He's caught 2 of the sort of slower riders at a really difficult point.
Oh, but what a great move Cody Webb made right there. You saw him just get off the bike, pivot around, find that new little line up the inside, makes 2 passes, not for position, but gets around some lappers. And it's unbelievable the pace of the front 2 that they're lapping this high up in the field.
So Webb up the hill the other side, where we saw the race leader a couple of moments ago, and Webb taking a noticeably different line there, but still getting the job done and trying to close in on Tristan Hart out in front. Then up comes 5th place man on the 711 bike in the battle for 5th position, Keith Curtis, just ahead of Ryder LeBlond. And here's Max Gersten then, who's closing in on both of them. He's in 8th position, having dropped down to 13th, as you said earlier on, Grant, but he's still got a shot at closing in those guys. Here comes Cody Webb, though, trying to find anything he can to close in on Tristan Hart. But what happens to your mindset once they go out of view? Once you can't see the leader anymore, does that change things a little?
It makes it really hard to stay fully motivated. You can see Cody now has gotten rid of the goggles, probably just wanting a little fresh air on his face, but the intensity has not dropped off from him. You can see through that rock section, just going about as fast as you can through there, so still putting the heat on. He knows that Tristan Hart's one mistake away from him being right back in this battle.
Underneath the bridge, lots of support for Cody Webb, but here comes Tristan Hart out in front, and he's coming towards the end of this next lap. Webb still trying to chase him down. Coming up through the right-hander around the tree.
Problem for Cody at the moment, though, his time is starting to run out. I'm sure so is their energy levels, but without seeing Tristan Hart in sight, and remember, they don't get pit boards out in the lap, so they don't really know what the gap is. As we see the white flag for Tristan Hart, that's got to be a beautiful sight. When you're out in front, the last thing you want to be doing is a bunch more laps, so that white flag couldn't have come any sooner. This is going to really help him. And when you see that white flag, even though you might be tired and drained, it's like a little second win, a little shot in the arm. You just know one more time you got to navigate this tricky track.
The other thing for Tristan Hart is that he's leaving that start complex. He'll have taken the white flag, and he won't even see Cody Webb anywhere behind him. Webb's just approaching the finishing zone now. In fact, there's Tristan Hart leaving it, so maybe they flash past each other just as one's leaving and one's entering, and that will give Tristan Hart a huge boost of confidence, knowing visibly the advantage he's got going on to this final tour. There comes Cody Webb. He does not have long now if he wants to somehow haul in the race leader up in front. Tristan Hart looking in a very commanding position at the moment, Selema.
Thank you, Jack. Heading into the final laps as Tristan Hart still holds a lead over the 6-time champion Cody Webb. Hart has dominated in all 3 races today and looks to be the last man standing, but is the experienced Webb just biding his time to make a move on the young Canadian? Who's going to be the 2020 Kenda TKO champion? We are about to find out. Stick with us. You are watching the Red Bull Signature Series.
Welcome back to the Red Bull Signature Series. It's the final lap of the 2020 Tennessee Knockout, America's toughest hard enduro race. Leader Tristan Hart of Canada has widened the gap with a big lead on the 6-time champion, American Cody Webb. Hart has executed virtually flawless racing all day. There's a lot of fights further back in the field. We've got Cooper Abbott there stumbling. He's in 15th position. Noah Keppel in there running in 4th spot. But here's Cody Webb in 2nd place. And at the start of that final lap, the gap was 56 seconds to Tristan Hart on a 5-minute lap. This is going to be really tough. It's going to rely on Hart running into a lot of trouble here, Grant.
Well, for Tristan, this is the perfect position to be in. He can, turn it down a little bit, really take his time figuring out the track on this last lap, because it has deteriorated throughout the race. And for Cody Webb, I'm just wondering if maybe those injuries over the last couple of years have just held him back enough where he didn't have the physical conditioning, or maybe even just the time on the motorcycle in order to go and get Tristan Hart.
He's putting a lap here on Cooper Abbott. How long does it take to get used to a bike, to understand a new bike?
Well, I think that's also very relative. The Sherco is a slightly different brand that Cody Webb would not be too familiar with, and with injuries that would have prevented them and the team of having more test time, track time, and dialing that machine in.
Ronnie Como's in a lot of trouble there, isn't he? The bike's further up the hill than he is, as he is running in 10th position at the moment. We go back on board with Cody Webb, still trying to chase down Tristan Hart, the race leader. Under the Red Bull Bridge, and then dropping down into the next sequence of rocks on this day that will feel like it's going on and on. This will be the longest lap, I'd have thought, in Tristan Hart's mind, having beaten Cody Webb a couple of weeks ago at the Battle of the Goats, and now he's beaten him twice so far today in Tennessee Knockout. And then here, he is currently still in front. Ryder LeBlond and Keith Curtis battling it over 5th position, and they are right together here. So Ryder LeBlond is ahead of Keith Curtis. They've switched positions many times throughout the course of this race. And Cody Webb still there, running in 2nd spot as he drops down into the next hill climb. And I guess now it's just a case of consolidation, but this will feel like an age, this final lap for Tristan Hart, I'd have thought.
Tristan Hart, you see, still standing up, feet on the pegs. That means he's got a lot in the tank. See Ryder LeBlanc now 5th position, so there's a battle for the top 5 going back and forth, and that is not a position you want to be getting stuck at.
Well, they're both down there, weren't they? Because Keith Curtis was the white bike a little bit further back down the hill, and Max Gersten now has managed to climb up into 7th place. He was 13th at the end of the first lap, but there's Ryder LeBlond. He's stuck against the tree. You see the white bike, the 711, has just got going again of Keith Curtis, so he's now up into 5th position. And here comes Max Gersten on the beta. The man from Scottsdale, Arizona, is closing in on this 6th position and 7th position fight.
This battle just will not end. These guys just really slugging it out. It's gone back and forth.
But here's the checkered flag, and there is the win. A superb ride from Tristan Hart. Half a minute slower on that last lap than his best, but that doesn't matter. He's done enough to win the 2020 Kenda Tennessee Knockout. Superb ride. Cody Webb not going to win, but a 2nd place. Still a good job. It just will kill him, though, that he hasn't been able to take a record-breaking 7th title.
Yeah, great ride from Cody Webb. He threw it all out there, but I think today Tristan Hart was just the strongest rider all weekend long. Well-deserved for him, but you can tell Cody still pretty happy with that 2nd place. But I'm sure he and Team Sherco would have loved to have been on the top step of the podium.
He made up 21 seconds on Tristan Hart during that final lap, but it wasn't enough. He's finishing 35 seconds behind, and there's Gersten Gersten gets ahead of Ryder LeBlond right on the end, right on the final lap. And what a ride as well from Benjamin Herrera. He's going to come across the line. A podium finish for the Chilean after a very strong ride. But let's hear from our race winner.
And we talked to Tristan Hart earlier. He said he put in the extra work, especially on that trials bike. Tristan, to finally have that pay off, win TKO, how do you describe this?
Undescribable. If you would have said like 3 years ago that I would have won this and beat Cody, I would have been like, no way, because he's lapped me every time I've ever been here, maybe even double lapped. So to win this is just, it's incredible. I don't know where it came from.
You got the whole shot. Cody was right there by you. What were you telling yourself, especially on that final lap?
I was telling myself to be consistent because I knew Cody was not going to mess anything up. So I'm like, please, God, just get up this hill every lap. And I had a little mistake, 2 laps to go, and I'm so glad I didn't crash and got the win.
Big congratulations, and what a big win for you.
Thank you.
So here's a look at the final results. The win for Tristan Hart on his KTM. Cody Webb finishing in second position this time around, and a good ride from Benjamin Herrera to finish third. Also, huge shout out to Max Gersten from 13th up to 6th by the end of that one. Well, what an entertaining 2020 Kenda, Tennessee knockout. Tristan Hart, the champion of 2020, managing to beat Cody Webb. Salema.
Thank you, Jack, and thanks to all of you watching for joining us here at the Trials Training Center from the Great Smoky Mountains in Sequatchie, Tennessee. The competitors were all put through the test, and congratulations to Canadian Tristan Hart for reaching the top of the podium, and the United States' Cody Webb, and Chile's Benjamin Herrera for rounding out the 1, 2, and 3. 6-time winner Cody Webb clearly was the favorite going into the competition, but Tristan Hart, carrying that momentum of a recent first win over the veteran, dominated the day, winning all 4 rounds of the racing, including the main event. He proved that he was clearly the man to beat, looking flawless as he navigated brutal new sections, including 4 logs, walk in the park, and the addition of a new hill climb that Hart was the first to ever climb in TKO competition. For that, the young Canadian Tristan Hart gets our signature moment. Thanks for joining us today once again. On behalf of our entire crew, including Jack Nichols, Grant Langston, and the one and only Tina Dixon, I am Salema Masekela, and we will see you next time.